Special Counsel Jack Smith trying to salvage his election interference case against former President Donald Trump. He has secured a second indictment with narrower allegations in response to a Supreme Court ruling that gives presidents broad immunity from prosecution. Joining us now is Jonathan Turley, constitutional law professor and a Fox News contributor. So, Professor, Jack Smith's new argument divorces Trump from the office of the president. Smith insists that Trump's actions with the election were taken as a, quote, candidate. This comes after Smith elaborately made the case in his previous indictment that Trump used the powers of the presidency to further his aims. So which is it?
Well, it's a good question. This is vintage Jack Smith. You know, he has always played right up to the margin in cases, and at times he's crossed over. He was reversed by the U.S. Supreme Court on probably his most famous previous case because he stretched the law, and that has been a signature of his, and I think he's still doing it. I mean, this is, you know, many of us expected, for example, that he would drop the allegation concerning Vice President Pence. That one seems to fall fairly squarely within the presumptively protected areas of the opinion. He didn't. What he did is he just took out lines that referred to official conduct. He took out some individuals that were obviously part of the government. But otherwise, he left it the same. It reminded me, you know, I once at my favorite Italian beef stand in Chicago, a woman asked for a low-cal option, and the owner cut the sandwich in half and charged her the full amount. And that's basically, I think, what this is. I mean, he's basically charging the full amount, but there's just less product.
I love the metaphor. Here's former federal prosecutor Katie Cherkasky on Fox and Friends talking about this. Listen here.
There's almost no legitimate legal purpose to Jack Smith bringing this superseding indictment at this point because the issues that were raised by the Supreme Court with the immunity ruling needed to be litigated by the trial judge anyway, and they could have certainly done that with the existing indictment. So this seems like a pure headline grab.
What do you say to that?
Well, I think that Jack Smith's strategy here is not necessarily a bad one. What he's doing is he went to a completely different grand jury. So we could say, look, this grand jury wasn't tainted by any evidence that might now be viewed as constitutionally protected. And they came out with these same charges. And the indictment itself removes those references. The problem is that you've got the Pence allegation. You also have an allegation of his relationship with members of Congress. Those are two of his four main theories. I think the Supreme Court's going to have a lot of trouble with those. And then the remaining two are these state issues, including the slate of electors his team was putting forward. I don't think he has really gotten himself out of the woods on this one. I think he's going to face a very skeptical reaction if he gets a conviction. But he's counting on the fact that he has a very favorable judge, and he's likely to have a very favorable jury.
In terms of the new grand jury, critics might say that he's just brought another ham sandwich to them. Trump claims that Smith violated DOJ policy. Here's what he said on Truth Social. It's DOJ policy that the Department of Justice should not take any action that will influence an election within 60 days of that election. But they have just taken such action. Voting starts on September the 6th. Therefore, the DOJ has violated its own policy, election interference. Real quick answer, if you could. What do you say to that?
Well, first of all, Jack Smith said earlier that he didn't feel that he was bound by that rule. It's really just a policy. And he's calculating that this is 10 days out from what he thinks is the election. Either way, I don't think it matters. It's clear that the Attorney General himself is going to do nothing to rein in this prosecutor, so he's going to go forward.
All right. We'll keep watching that case. Professor, good to have you alongside with us. Appreciate it.
Thanks, John.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.